This is R2D Tech, and this week I'm going to share some of my thoughts around film photography in 2021 and why I'm probably going to give it a go, so stay tuned. So I'm basically 100% sure that all of you are very familiar with digital photography because that's what you use on a day-to-day basis with your smartphones and other digital DSLRs, where you can pretty much shoot as many photos as you want, you can delete them and share them instantly, and you hardly have to think about the process at all when you're actually taking the photo because it does everything for you, like the exposure, the ISO, and everything else. I guess then the main question is, why would you want to switch away from such a convenient form of photography and go to analog photography with a film camera where it's a lot more difficult? The first reason I can think of is that the photos that come out of these film cameras have a really unique look to them, which I think you can't really replicate 100% on a digital camera. Yes, you can try and replicate the old film look on your digital photos, but I personally think that as much as you try to get that feel, you'll never get it 100% because it's part of the imperfection of the original film shots that make them look so unique. Like the way the light looks in the photos, the way it might bounce off the back of the camera and be exposed on the back of the film, or anything like that, which I guess nowadays we would think of as an error or an imperfection. I think that's what makes it look so unique. Now, everything I say in this video is purely my opinion, and I wouldn't be able to back up any of the facts that I might say because they're probably wrong, and I'm by no means a film expert, but I'm trying to become one, or at least dabble a bit in the world of photography in the coming few months. Apart from the cool looking photos that you get from film photography, another thing that I find really interesting and kind of inspires me to get into this whole thing is the whole process that goes with taking a photo using a classic film camera. So when you take a photo, say on your smartphone, the process from actually seeing what you want to take a photo of and snapping the photo is almost instant because you just point the camera, take the photo, and in most cases, unless you're using some pro mode on the camera, it chooses all the settings for you. After watching quite a lot of videos from some cool film photography channels and also reading some articles, I think I've got a new appreciation as to how taking the photo yourself in a more manual sense can be a lot more rewarding than that instant process that you get from, say, a smartphone camera. I'm talking things like buying a specific film for a specific trip because there's going to be a certain level of lighting, maybe you're in a rainforest or something, or you know you're going to be shooting around a specific time of day, like sunset for example, and so you're choosing a film with a specific ISO value to suit that, or even changing the shutter speed or aperture and choosing whether to underexpose or overexpose or just go in the middle. All of this sort of stuff I think adds quite a rich flavor to photography that you just don't get on modern day smartphones or digital cameras. Now, of course, there's lots of people out there that really won't want to delve into this at all, but I'm guessing if you're watching this video, then you're one of the people that's considering something like film photography where you have to choose all of this stuff yourself. Yes, there's the obvious argument that you can choose all of these settings on your smartphone camera as well, but first of all, it's definitely not doing anything mechanical, so you lose out on that really nice mechanical sound and feel, but also it doesn't force you to do this on your smartphone, and because of that, most people won't even think about something like this. They'll just open the camera app and shoot the photo. It doesn't make you choose the settings, whereas on an old manual film camera, you kind of have to choose some of the settings, otherwise you run the risk of getting a photo which is completely unreadable or doesn't represent what you were trying to take a photo of at all. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is that by forcing you to choose these settings manually, you're thinking a lot more about what you want the photo to actually look like, which can produce some really nice, unique results. The next thing I can think of is the limitation to film photography, which I mean in a very positive way. So I know a bit about 35mm film, and I know that you generally get around 36 shots. so you can only take 36 photos with one roll of film. Not to mention that unlike with your smartphone where you can take thousands of photos and not even think about it, since there's only 36 shots on the roll and you have to pay for each roll, you're not going to end up taking 5,000 photos because it will cost you quite a lot of money. Now that limitation, in my opinion, is quite a big positive because it makes each photo worth a lot more in the sense that you think very carefully before you snap a photo because you only have a small amount that you can actually take. In that sense, those 36 photos that you do take will most likely be a lot more valuable and unique and actually better photos than the 5,000 that you took by holding down the button on your smartphone. Also, this limitation means that you definitely don't want to be shooting lots of photos of the same thing, which is quite common on a smartphone, to get the perfect one. So instead, you'll just take a lot more time to set up the photo, to make sure that you've chosen the right settings, you've got the exact framing right, because you can't change that later on. Then you take the photo and that's it. And that kind of leads on to another point, which is the fact that you can't actually see what photo you took until you get it back from development like a week later. Now, a lot of people think of that as a huge negative, because if you can't see the photo that you took straight away or until after you get back from a trip, then how do you know that it's any good? But I guess that's the point. You don't stress so much about taking 100 photos of the same thing and basically ruining the moment. You just take one photo. It might be good. Chances are it is good if you've done the correct settings, if you've done your research and you've got experience. But otherwise, it doesn't matter. You move on and you take another photo somewhere else and you won't even think about it because your other photos will be really good. In that sense, you don't lose yourself trying to get the perfect photo and you just take it as it is. And sometimes that ends up giving you more natural looking photos or more real to life photos, because a lot of the time on your smartphone, you'll like the photo more, which is more unrealistic. That probably didn't make any sense, but what I kind of mean is that when you get people to choose between different photos nowadays, say on social media in a blind camera test, they'll tend to choose the one which is less true to life, so where the contrast is bumped up a million, or it's much brighter than what it actually was in real life. And I think you lose quite a few layers when you do that. Whereas with film photography, the cameras are quite manual in the sense that the film just captures what's in front of it. It doesn't tweak it or edit it or process it in any way, apart from the chemicals just absorbing the light. So it's a very raw and natural form of photography, which I think is what makes it so special amongst lots of other things. You might be thinking that film photography is sort of a dying art, but quite the contrary, actually. In the last few years, there's been a movement called #filmisnotdead, which is basically accelerating quite rapidly, and it's already got 18 million followers if you look it up on Instagram, and that's just the people that use social media. I imagine there's a lot more people out there who use film cameras who don't follow that trend on social media. And that doesn't happen out of the blue, especially for the younger generation who were never really exposed to film photography in real life. They started off using digital cameras. There's a reason why this trend is picking up amongst young people, the millennials and my generation. It's because clearly there's something really unique and even kind of addictive about film photography, just the mechanical feel, the mechanical sound, the manual control, sort of the way the images look, basically everything that we've talked about in this video. I guess I think of film photography as a real kind of art where, yes, it's taking you back to a more basic technology, but sometimes the more simple things or simple forms of things are better, and in this case, I think that's definitely true. Because of all of these positives that are associated with film photography, I think it's definitely about time that I got myself into it a bit and experience what it's like to use a classic film camera, the whole process, taking the photo, choosing the settings, getting it developed, and eventually even developing the photos myself, which is an art all unto itself. So I've actually gone ahead and ordered an old Canon AE-1 camera, and I'll probably be getting some Kodak 35mm film to start off with. The first roll will most likely be very experimental, where I just kind of get a feel for the whole thing and figure out all the settings and the best sort of settings for different environments, because it's all a learning curve. And then in the future I might try out some different films and also different ISOs depending on where I'm shooting, what time of day, the general conditions. For the first few experimental ones, I'm definitely going to get them developed in a shop. But after that, I definitely want to try and do the development process myself. One last positive I guess I forgot to mention is the whole style of the classic film cameras. I don't think there can really be much of a debate about this, because the classic film cameras just look really nice and they've got a really solid build, whereas the new ones don't have that unique sort of look to them. I think that would definitely encourage me to take the camera out more, because it's almost like a fashion accessory when you're not using it, rather than one of the new DSLR cameras where they all look kind of bland. Again, just my opinion. But those are my general thoughts. Definitely let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. And if you want me to, I'll probably do it anyway. But when my camera comes, I'll do an unboxing video and I'll probably do some initial thoughts, and then later down the line, maybe even some film photography tutorials if I get good enough. That's it for this week. If you liked the video, then definitely leave a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this in the future, then smash that subscribe button and notification bell below.